figure out a way to draw a line between facts and feelings. Figure out a way to say, this is a feeling and it's valid and I feel it, but it's not a description, it's not a fact. And in order to do that, you have to come up with facts. Like, what are the facts about your life? AKA, what are the truths about your life? What are the things that you believe so immutably that you refuse to ever negotiate on them? Like, for instance, like I have a list of facts. I've got them. I actually have them written down over here somewhere. I believe that my hard work will pay off. I believe that I have something to offer a partner in the world. I believe that I am worthy of financial freedom because so on and so forth. Those are facts that I believe. And I think it's handy to have those available in your mental ethos so that in the moments where you do feel a certain negative emotion, you can compare it and say, this is a feeling, but this is the fact. Are they one and the same? No. Therefore, this is not a fact. And I will revert to the truth that I believe. So,
hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Society podcast. This is the podcast for anybody and everybody in the health and wellness industry that wants to grow their business. I'm your host, Alexa Cawley. I'm the CEO and president of Forever Friday Consulting, where I work with private clients one-on-one to help them scale their brands and reach amazing people. On this podcast, we talk to industry leaders and experts that have built really amazing brands within the health and wellness industry to teach you how to do the exact same thing. I've worked for some of the biggest names in the health and wellness field, like Lululemon and SoulCycle, and I take everything that I've learned, plus our industry's amazing experts, and bring it to you. All right, guys, let's get into the episode. It is a really good one, so drop me a line on Instagram at foreverfriday.co, and let's get to it. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. I've seen Case's Instagram posts and inspirational, just motivational things that he posts all around Chicago on Instagram for a long time. So I was super, super excited to sit down with him and talk about how he built this amazing company that he has. Super excited for you guys. It's definitely a little bit business building, but a lot of like mindfulness and tips and tricks to sort of keep us going. Just some stuff going on in my world. I hosted my Women in Wellness panel at Aura in NoHo a few days ago now, and it was totally sold out for every single person who came. I'm just so completely overjoyed. So thank you guys. I'm getting photography back soon, so I'm really excited for that. Apologies for all the spam that'll come out soon from all those photos, but I really think that's it. I'm planning out a lot of my 2023 like offerings of marketing sessions and packages and all of that. So definitely make sure you guys are signed up for my newsletter so that you get first access to that, because things have been going quick, which is really exciting. But I am fully maxed out with one-on-one clients. So this will sort of be the way to connect with me and if you need some marketing help. So anyway, with that said, I hope you guys love this episode. I hope that you're able to take something away from it. And if you're new here, welcome. But that's it. Let's get into the episode. Case, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. I just told you, but I binged your episodes hard last night. And first things first, I think I just want to say, like, congratulations on the Sirius deal. That's massive.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to several episodes. It's a lot of me, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
It was great. Honestly, I'll say the first episode I listened to, it was an immediate subscribe. Like, I was just like, this is great. Like, bite-sized information of great, like level setting sort of with your mindset. I love it.
Well, thank you. Good. I love it.
So you had it for 5 years, right?
Yeah, just under 5.
Okay, awesome. When did you first get started with the podcast?
So I started New Mindset Who Dis in 2018, it was like May or June 2018. But before that, I had dabbled in podcasting with a friend on another podcast where we kind of interviewed entrepreneurs and artists and creatives. So I'd been in the podcasting field for a bit, but as far as like doing my own, creating my own, like committing to doing my own, it's 2018.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. I love that. So first question before we sort of get into all of like the business building, all that stuff, I have to ask, Case is your full given birth name?
It's Casey, but I haven't gone by that in forever. So everyone.
Okay. Got it. I didn't know if it was short for anything. I love it. All right. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, like where you are, what your career journey was, and sort of like, this is my favorite question. What was your gateway drug? into what you're doing now? Like what really lit the fire under your ass to sort of just start with, everything you're doing now?
Yeah. So for context, I'm 34. I live in Chicago. I do this full time. I would describe myself. It's tough to describe what I do because it's many things. I joke that I share my feelings for a living. That's like my title. Yeah. But I do that in a couple different ways. The podcast, writing. I've written a bunch of books. I'm an author. I produce music. I'm an entrepreneur. I've created several lines of mindfulness products. I create products for other brands. I consult for other brands. But I mean, at my core, I'm a creative. Like I'm a writer and I'm a podcaster and I'm a producer. That's my thing. Of course, in this day and age, you entrepreneur size yourself in order to bring that to life. But that's my thing. And I've been doing it for quite some time. The podcast started in 2018, but I had been writing online from before that. But, before that, I worked in advertising in Chicago. I worked at 2 ad agencies for a couple of years. And then I worked for 8 years running a sales team for an advertising technology company. And I did that for a long time. I side hustled on my other things for a long time as well. And then eventually phased out, quit my job, and now do this full time. But everything I really do is pretty specific around my passion point, which is mindfulness, the topic of mindfulness, bringing mindfulness to life in literally as many different ways as I can possibly do, from journals. I have a line of journals that sell really well, to the podcast, of course, to my books and my writing, to, I launched a candle brand the other year to combine scent and mindfulness on bothered.com. I have a product in Target and Walmart starting in October that I collaborated with What Do You Meme, those guys. I've done a bunch of different things, and I work a lot in music as well. I work with producers and DJs to create what I call dance music guided meditations, fusing together mindfulness and dance music. I speak, I do mindfulness sessions, all these different things, but basically it's with the core of mindfulness as the foundations, bringing that to life is in as many different ways as possible, both through content and through products.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll definitely get into all the multifaceted entrepreneur lifestyle because I have a lot of questions there. But what got you into mindfulness? What was your first? Was it a meditation event? Like what? Because I imagine, it's harder, I think, for men, especially with mindfulness and like going deep into your feelings. What was your first introduction into that? Yeah.
So for me, it was very organic. Like this is never a life that I thought I would be doing. It certainly isn't something I thought I would be doing professionally. It's really very like meta too. Like it was 2018, like starting the podcast was what got me into mindfulness. I never set out to be like, I want to be an authority in the space. I still think it's a joke when people refer to me as an expert this or expert that. I started the podcast in 2018, just in response to my life. I was 29, 30. And I was like, I just took a step back. I was like, what am I doing? Like, am I doing what I want to be doing? Am I going to look back and regret the decisions I'm making? And I was kind of fired up by that question because I'm pretty type A. I was like, I don't know the answer to that. I need to find out. So I was like, I'll start a podcast as a means to challenge myself, both in the form of audio, I think is a bit more vulnerable than just writing. And second, as a means to say, I can commit to doing something for a year. I can commit to doing something challenging for a year, sitting down and asking myself questions for a year. So I was like, I'm going to do that. And I did that and started to do that. And through the process of sitting down and asking myself questions about what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Why do I have these goals? And sharing that through that process, I realized what I was doing, which is mindfulness. And mindfulness is always this word to me that was like, oh my gosh, mindfulness. Let's talk about chakras and energies and vibrations. Like it was like, I was pretty cynical towards it. Yeah. And I realized quickly through the process that, all mindfulness is self-awareness and bringing that to life in different ways, specifically through the power of the word why, W-H-Y. And I just realized through what I was doing that I was practicing mindfulness. And then I also realized very quickly that mindfulness, like many other things in life, is a muscle. And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And I just started to realize that the podcast was incredibly helpful to me. It was like my form of therapy. And then lo and behold, it became this thing that was really helpful for other people. And then I just kind of kept pulling on that string and eventually wound up here.
Got it. I love that. That's so fun. So was it always called New Mindset Who Dis?
Yes. Yeah. That was my because my whole thing is, and I'm still a little cynical towards the self-development industry, the self-help industry, a life coach, this life coach, that, no disrespect to anyone. I think if you have helpful thoughts and people want to pay you money for it, great. If you have a helpful thought and you want to share it on Instagram, fantastic. Mm-hmm. For me, I was always a little cynical towards the industry, being like, oh man, here comes someone who's going to tell me another life truth and I need to sit down and say yes and live it. I was always that way. But I think I grew up a lot and realized that the cliches are true. I love sitting down and talking about a cliche because they are true. So I grew and evolved. But I wanted the podcast to be a little bit different. I wanted to be a less serious take on serious topics. So my friends and I always joke, like when we text each other, like, hey, I don't know who this is, new phone, who dis? Like that was always the joke. That's like a culture meme thing. So I was like, I want a new mindset. I want to reset my mindset. So that was kind of a new mindset, who dis?
Got it. I love it. You said something that I think was really important of mindfulness is a muscle that you just keep flexing and you keep practicing. Can you go a little bit deeper into that? Because I think there is sort of this misconception, especially like everyone who listens to this podcast is in the health and wellness industry, particularly. And I think there is sort of this like, either you are mindful and you're this yoga, person, exactly like you're saying, this like chakras, like this whole, you're either that person or you're not. And I just don't think that's true. So can you go a little deeper into how you sort of evolve and how your mindset evolves over time and with practice?
Yeah, such a good point. I mean, that was literally me. I was like, mindfulness isn't for me. First of all, it's a big word. I don't know what it means. It's too esoteric. I used to think that people who practice mindfulness are the same people who are great at meditating. They're the same people who go to Burning Man or a silent retreat, who go to the Himalayas to find themselves, and they come back with a crystal and they say weird things. Yeah. And again, no disrespect to those people. I hang out with a lot of those people, and
sometimes that's me. That's okay.
You provide so much value. It's just not my. It's just not my thing. Yeah. I was like, in order for me to buy into self improvement, I needed to be practical. Practical in the sense of real, pragmatic. Not things of like, oh, I can't really see that, but I've got to believe it, and we're all energy and we're all one. To me, I was like, there's got to be a way to look at the hard facts of my life, to tap into the volume of memories I have, and to make redeeming conclusions and assumptions given that. There has to be a way to be able to say, I have lived through this, therefore I believe this, and it makes perfect sense. I have seen this, therefore I have this standard, and I can connect the dots, and it feels good. It's not a leap of faith. It's not blind this, blind that. Maybe I should have been a lawyer in a former life, very like exhibit A, judgment. So for me, like sitting down and starting the process of just being like, I'm going to ask myself questions and see what Case Kenny, can come up with, given Case Kenny's experience, memories, perspective. And through that, I realized, this is pretty crazy. Like self-improvement, there's many different ways to approach it. Of course, there's deep energy level self-improvement. And then there's very practical self-improvement that says, I can take a crack at my memories and my anxiousness or the blocks that I have in my life, and I could break through them with repetition. To your question, the repetition of mindfulness. And I do all these speaking things on what mindfulness is. To me, mindfulness is literally, at the very bottom, it's why. It's WHY. The more that you ask yourself why, the more you get two very specific things in life that I think if you're living with these things and you develop them through literal muscle memory, you're minimizing a lot of the regret in life. And that's why I say mindfulness why gives you closure and it gives you clarity in life. And if you're living with closure and you're living with clarity, at least with the effort of that, maybe not the full 100% closure, just acceptance, maybe not 100% clarity, this is right. But at any given moment, you're living with the intention of saying, how can I find closure for this thing? How can I create closure for this thing? And then how can I live in the present with intention of saying yes or no, clarity. And I just, the more you do it, and when I say it, there's many different forms of mindfulness, the better you get at it. Truly, truly. Like, I call the whole thing of not practicing mindfulness living in the gray of life. The gray is where you're not challenging yourself. You're doing what's comfortable. You're borrowing other people's truths. I just very quickly came to learn that why, when I asked myself why, I quickly learned what was for me and what wasn't for me. Like I was acting in ways that I thought I needed to, because that's what you do when you're a single guy and you're 28, or that's what you do when you're making this amount of money, or that's what you do when so on and so forth. And I just very quickly, because I became obsessed with this idea of challenging myself, how quickly you can break down some of those preconceived notions and assumptions and the lens through which you look at life and create your own. And Yeah, I mean, it's literally that. It's literally repetition. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, it almost sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're sort of saying that it's the compounding of asking yourself questions and like the focus that comes out of that and like the self-knowing that comes out of that, that is mindfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it starts with one why, and then you go again and you go again until you can kind of get to the basic thing. Why am I feeling anxious? Well, it's this. Well, why that? Well, it's because I was told this. Well, why does that hold weight? Well, because I've always believed this. Well, why? And so on and so forth. And I mean, I suppose that's what a therapist does. When you talk to a therapist, they just continue to break down the thought, the feeling, the anxiety, the conditioning, the trauma, until you get at a point where you're saying, this is where it started. If that's where it started, what can I do with that instead of what I've been doing with that? That's mindfulness.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I was going to ask, because your website describes you as a dude bro guy, which I thought was hilarious and obviously something I assume you made up, right? Like, I assume you didn't read this somewhere.
Yeah, I did make that up. I haven't referred to myself so much lately as that, because my agent and my publicist always kills me because they're like, no, you've got to be an expert, you've got to be an authority. But I am pretty adamant about just being a regular guy, because I truly am. I don't have any academic experience in this. I went to Notre Dame and I studied Chinese. Literally, I majored in Chinese.
Whoa.
Which is random. But I just have always been drawn to content and perspective from people who are regular freaking people. I am kind of the notion that, this day and age, we get the most value from regular people. Regular people who have perspective or maybe extraordinary experiences, but regular people. Like, I think, I have a lot of respect for the thought leaders and the people who get the headlines, but it's like, the relatability isn't so much there. Like, I get so much value from going to Reddit, for instance. I love Reddit because it's normal, everyday people breaking down the wall, giving you perspective, giving you experience. And I just really wanted the thing that I offer people is relatability. First and foremost, relatability, so that when I speak about a topic, it's not about me, it's about them immediately. It's about them applying it to their life. And the dude bro guy thing was just a kind of a joke, because I am very dude bro guy in that sense. At least I used to be kind of a, I don't know what the right word is, but just, a lot of house music, lifting weights and eating Chipotle. Just being a dude, being a guy. Yeah. And I've moved away from that a little bit just to since my career has progressed a little bit, but I'm still very adamant about the idea of regular guy, leveraging his talent, his gift. And I think my gift is simplifying emotions. And I created the content and the way that I approach my content because I wanted it and I needed it and I would consume it. And, that's why I still do it. So, but I have always leaned towards the non-expert type branding, and it's worked.
Yeah, it's working. So I love this. And, you're talking about regular people, right? Which I think is awesome. Your website touches on this a lot, of this like perfect versus whole. And I think the way I'm hearing this from you is like, it's perfect versus regular, right? And like the beauty in being a normal human being. I want to really dive into this concept of like perfection versus wholeness. Where do you think people get it wrong in like striving for perfection? Like what do you sort of see going on with society and this strive for perfectionism? I
mean, I think we get it wrong with the words we use, truthfully. Like the most common thing I say, hey, what's your purpose of life? What do you want? And everyone's like, I just want to be happy. I just want to be fulfilled. I just want to be successful. Nice, strong adjectives. And, I think that really backs us into a corner a lot, the words we use, because I want to be happy. Oof, that is a goal and a half, man. First of all, how do you describe that? Second of all, there's no way that's going to be permanent. It's going to be massively up and down. And I think we set ourselves up, not for failure, but for a lack of being satisfied when we set goals for ourselves like that. Because kind of intrinsic in that is, I want to be happy. I want to be successful. You're saying I want to be perfect in that sense. I want the perfect life. I want the happy life. I want the successful life. And, what I've realized is, of course, life very rarely offers that continuously. And our human minds are wired in the sense that if we say, I want to be happy, and then we go through life and we go through massive times of not being happy, we're very quick to label ourselves an unhappy person. I have failed in that sense. I'm not happy. I have failed. That was my goal and I failed. So like, I really encourage people to reframe the goals that they set for themselves. You can call it being whole. You can call it being, satisfied. You can call it being whatever. But I'm big on, reframing from adjectives to verbs. Instead of saying, I want to be happy, I say, I am the kind of person who, and then I complete it with as many verb statements as possible. I'm the kind of person who practices gratitude every day, who shoots my shot, who is proud of the work I'm doing, who shows up, who does these things that I can control. Cannot control if I'm happy, literally cannot. There are obviously certain decisions we can make to decide to be happy, but largely happiness can be random. It can be taken from us. It can be luck. It could be bad luck. But no one can ever take the actions that I do. If I say I want to be a happy person, I'm the kind of person who or successful. Instead of saying I want to be successful, you say I'm the kind of person who shows up every day, goes first, does all these business things. I've just found that framing is much more empowering, because no one can take the verbs from us, but life can take the adjectives from us. And the way our minds are, we love to take a point, take a fact and extrapolate it. A bad day, an unhappy day means a bad life, an unhappy life. But the verbs, we can always control those and come back to those. So to me, that's kind of what I reference when I talk about being whole. It's coming back to the things we can control and creating a source of power there, as opposed to staying into these adjectives that are can be taken from us so easily. So, I'm weird about words, just being an author and spending all day looking at these things, but I really do think it's powerful to reframe it in that sense. Yeah,
I love that. I'm curious, how did your degree in Chinese play into you being specific about words, or did it? Like, is this related for you at all? I guess learning, a very different language.
I've always been really freakily good at languages. So at Notre Dame, I actually double majored. It was in Chinese, Mandarin, East Asian languages and cultures, and then also Arabic, modern standard Arabic. So
wow,
Middle Eastern studies. And then I also did Hindi and Urdu as well, because they're related. So was always really good at languages and kind of bad at everything else. So I don't know, words, sentence structure, the visualization of an idea into words. That's always been my thing. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like I do borrow a lot of ideas from like East Asian religions, some of the semblances of, Buddhism and Hinduism even, and things like that. So I think there are definitely, if I were to look back, there's some dots to be connected there.
Yeah, I love that. That's so interesting. All right. So then going deeper into, that wholeness aspect, like what if someone messes up? Right. And then they feel like their entire day is ruined. Like, how can, what if they don't show up their best that day? Or what if like they forget to practice their gratitude? Like, how do you sort of, instead of feeling like everything has fallen off track, what do you think the best way is for someone to sort of be like, all right, it didn't work the way I wanted it to today, but like, that's fine, and moving on.
Yeah. A lot of different ways. One of my most my favorite guided journaling exercises for people is to encourage them to realize the difference between facts and feelings. A feeling like you're describing a bad day, you're unhappy, you failed, you're disappointed yourself, like feelings. The reality of mindfulness and being human is a lot of times we're not even honest with ourselves. We're not even honest with ourselves to say, I feel anxious. Like we just avoid that feeling completely. But on the day where we're like, you know what, I'm going to put my heart on my sleeve. I'm anxious, or I feel unlovable, or I feel like a failure. That's great. That's fantastic that you can get to that point. But then again, to human conditioning, we're also very quick to say, I feel this way. I'm honest about this thing. Therefore, I am this thing. I feel unlovable. Therefore, I am unlovable. I feel anxious. Therefore, I'm an anxious person. So we quickly make this connection between our feelings and our labels, our feelings and who we are, our feelings and the facts. The reality is, of course, just because you're unlovable doesn't mean you're an unlovable person. Just because you feel anxious doesn't mean you're an anxious person.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I encourage people to do is figure out a way to draw a line between facts and feelings. Figure out a way to say, this is a feeling and it's valid and I feel it, but it's not a description. It's not a fact. And in order to do that, you have to come up with facts. Like, what are the facts about your life? AKA, what are the truths about your life? What are the things that you believe so immutably that you refuse to ever negotiate on them? Like, for instance, like I have a list of facts. I've got them. I actually have them written down over here somewhere. I believe that my hard work will pay off. I believe that I have something to offer a partner in the world. I believe that I am worthy of financial freedom because so on and so forth. Those are facts that I believe. And I think it's handy to have those available in your mental ethos, so that in the moments where you do feel a certain negative emotion, you can compare it and say, this is a feeling, but this is the fact. Are they one and the same? No. Therefore, this is not a fact. And I will revert to the truth that I believe. So, I think it takes some time in life to come up with the facts that we truly believe. And we'll always be tempted to renegotiate them. But I think at minimum, when you are having that bad day, that bad week, that bad month, that bad year, I think the thing that keeps us going in one sense, in one exercise, is to recognize the difference between facts and feelings. And in order to do that, you have to have done the work to sit down and actually come up with what those facts are for you.
I love that. I want to go into this list you have of beliefs, because I heard something recently that really stuck with me. And it was that a belief is just a thought you keep thinking, right? Which I thought was so amazing and so freeing of like, all right, like I can change my beliefs then, and that's okay. Right. So I spent a lot of time working for Lululemon. And something that we did often was like our leadership manifesto. So we would write out, who we wanted to be as leaders, and your list of beliefs is really reminding me of that. So on this show, there's a lot of entrepreneurs who listen, and a lot of people who are trying to start their own business. And I just think having that list of beliefs is so freeing and almost defining at the same time, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm free to create who I want to be as a leader, but I also, this is who I want to be. Like, this is the vision that I'm striving towards. So kind of, I guess, walk me through like how you came up with this list of beliefs and what sort of you use to, pick the particular ones that you did, and like how it helps you day to day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the strongest beliefs you could hold are backed up by facts. The weakest beliefs you hold are not backed up by facts. That's why I'm very drawn to a practical type of mindfulness. If I were to sit down and say, I'm worthy of love because my energy flows, I'm like, oh, I'm asleep already. And again, no disrespect to people that find power in that. Yeah. For me, though, I would find confidence and endurance in saying I am worthy of love because I'm willing to give love. I'm willing to be honest. I'm willing to be selfless. I'm willing to do these things. Oh, and here's the facts that support that. Here are the memories where I did those things. Here's my resolve to do those things currently. That's a strong way to connect a fact, a belief, with a why you have that fact and that belief. And that's what I encourage people to do. To our earlier conversation, we have memories for a reason. They can either reinforce negative assumptions about ourselves, or they can reinforce facts that we've set for ourselves. So, I'm very big on like doing the difficult things in life. I'm very big on doing the things you don't want to do, because those are the moments where you solidify the truths that you've established for yourself. So you could sit down and say, I am worthy of, success, or I am worthy of having my art and my music shared with millions, and I'm worthy of making an impact in the world. Great. Sit down and tell yourself why that's true. And you don't need to have massive, poetry about why it's true. You just literally point at the facts of the work that you've done, the work that you're doing, and the work, of course, that you're committed to doing. And that's the biggest thing. And I've always just found that when you can create a fact, a truth, a statement that's connected with a why it's true, then it becomes much less easily breakable than something that is just a statement of what you want and what you hope to get in life. So anyway, again, we're going back to the word why. Why is the ultimate equalizer when it comes to breaking through your own conditioning. But it's also the great equalizer when it comes to establishing what you believe in life. If you don't have a why behind it, that is why you believe it's true, why you believe it won't change, then it becomes very difficult to live that, especially when life is so up and down. So I really do think it comes back to giving yourself the facts, and we have memories for a reason. And, I think if we do take the effort to find those memories that support it, and if we don't have it, that's okay as well. Commitment to an act, commitment to discipline is the same as well. So back to the word why.
Yeah. Something that everyone who's listened to the show knows this, but I say oftentimes, like creating your happy folder on your phone of just every single time something happens that you are proud of yourself for, right? Because, again, a lot of these people are entrepreneurs. Like, I don't have a boss. My boss is me, which is fantastic. But that does also mean like no one's giving me a performance review. No one's saying, oh, Alexa, you did a great job with this. Like, yeah, I need to be the one to do that. And you need to be the one to celebrate yourself when you have your own business. So like, I love to say, just screenshot every single thing, every message that makes you smile that you get, every single text message from a client. Like, this is your performance review. Sometimes like these are the times where you're just like, okay, cool. You know, I need a little pick me up. So I'm curious, all that to say, how do you sort of like, you have a lot of accomplishments, you know, under your umbrella brand. How do you celebrate yourself? Like, what are some of your self-celebration practices?
Oh boy.
You're like, I'm so bad at it. You're
I'm horrible at it. Yeah, don't ask me that question because I have no helpful advice to give. That's the one thing I need to work on. I'm just really bad at it. I'm really bad at accomplishing something and actually celebrating it because I always move the finish line. Like, I'm looking over to my left. I have these champagne bottles that were the Virgil Abloh Moet edition from like 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I've had so many goals that I said I was gonna pop the bottle. I'm gonna celebrate once I hit that goal, and I have accomplished a lot in 6 years. Yeah. But they remain right there unopened because of that very reason. I'm just not great at it. So I'm working on that. I think I know the problem. I know that I accomplish it, and then I say that's not enough because I've seen that person can do more. Because I can see a reality where I can do more. So I need to get better at that.
Okay, I love that. And then I guess let's just go like, what do you think makes someone a perfectionist, and how can they? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, like you're saying, like we all sort of get to this point where like, oh no, but it could be more. It could be more. Like, what causes that, and how can we sort of, I guess, get better at being in the work and that, I guess.
Yep. Also working on that. I mean, I think it's tough because a lot of entrepreneurs are very type A, of course. That's why you've chosen entrepreneurship. You would rather fight in the trenches and control your life than be at the whim of someone else. So I do think a lot of perfectionism, of course, comes from our desire to control everything, to control every outcome. So I think certainly the freedom that comes with no longer trying to do that. I don't know. I think a lot of confidence comes from like letting go of certain things. Like I'm all for trying to control things at the onset. Like the first thing you do, the first email you send, the first word you utter, the first deal you sign, like, yeah, go after it. But after that, I find a lot of confidence from being like, listen, all I can control is the first thing I do. And then other people's reaction to it, the world's reaction to it, customers' reaction to it, I can't control from there. So I may as well try that first time. I may as well take one step forward and do my best thing. But from there, let what happens, and then, be confident enough to react to it. Ryan Holiday wrote the book, Ego is the Enemy, right? About ego is not your friend. Ego is what makes you stagnant. Ego is what makes you overconfident, so on and so forth. I think there's a positive side to ego, and that's an ego that says what I just described, that I can only control the first thing I do. But from there, I'm okay with whatever happens because I'm proud of myself for doing that first thing. So I don't know. I find a lot of power in just like being willing and being type A about the first thing. And then from there, letting it go in a certain sense, and obviously applying EQ when necessary to be like, no, we need to do this again. But I mean, I think certain things we've got to realize are extremely distracting from the one or two big things that we're trying to accomplish. So I think maybe to answer your question, and again, I'm not good at this myself, so I'm just talking through this live, but I think coming back to like the big thing that you're trying to accomplish, like why are you doing what you're doing in the first place? Like it's very easy to get distracted by all the side quests, all the comparison, and then try to control those. But I think coming back to that one thing, call it a mission statement, call it a manifesto, call it whatever core belief is driving you in your business and your art and whatever it is you're creating. I think the more we stay tuned on that, the more that we can, splash some water on our face and be like, man, I've been chasing a lot of things that would be cool to have, but aren't priority number one when it comes to that thing that I'm trying to do. Yeah.
I just feel like so much of what you're saying is the root is just like the core knowing. It's just like knowing yourself and just your core values, your core statements, like everything that just drives who you want to be. And it's just all about like getting there and knowing that and uncovering that part about yourself.
Yeah. Self-awareness and knowing is the greatest gift you can give yourself. I think in every sense, personally, in relationships and business, like the more you know yourself, the more you don't get distracted by the noise of life. And that's the biggest deterrence to everything. I think it's like, we are our own worst enemy just because we allow a lot of input in ourselves that doesn't help us. And we have to learn the difference between what is noise and what is not noise. And it could take a long time to figure that out. But I think the more you practice mindfulness in whatever way works for you, journaling, therapy, yoga, meditation, whatever works for you, I think you're just going to get closer to that. And it's the best gift you can give yourself.
I love that. All right. So, you mentioned it earlier when you were introducing yourself. You do a lot. Like a lot. Your podcast is amazing. You have almost 6,000 5-star reviews on your podcast. Like there's a lot. You got your physical products, you have journals, books, candles. What are some of, and your Instagram, which, you have thousands and thousands of people, 450,000 people following you for inspiration. You got a lot going on. What are some of your non-negotiables for running this business of yours, and like things that you absolutely make sure you abide by, I guess, to make sure your business is running the way you want it to?
Well, I will say that the advantage of being obsessive and working too much in this sense is like I control everything in my business. I have an agent, I have a publicist, I've got some freelance people, but ultimately I get to make all the decisions. Because for me, it's like, in the industry that I'm in, it's you're entrepreneur and you're also artist. Let's call artist for creator and writer and all those things. And it's finding a balance between those two things. And for me, it took me a while to find that balance. Truthfully, I was like, no, entrepreneur, that means I need to build a team and have a business and be, cheesy things like Inc. 5000 or Forbes this, that. And that's fine again for people who want that. But for me, I realized that that's ultimately not the direction that I want to go. So like I have learned and I have evolved into being, 20% entrepreneur, 80% creator. Whereas before I was 80% entrepreneur, 20% creator, just like obsessed with the business angle of this and that. And I found the business is way more profitable when I focus on the art, on the output, on the content, on the product. So I've moved into kind of resetting my why in that sense to create more, and to create from a place of relatability and truth, and then to create products from it, the 20%. But that 20% has way more ROI I have found in this sense than before, when I was like, no, I'm a business and we need to scale the business and the business needs this and needs that, as opposed to focusing on the product, I am the product. So really coming back to that truth has been really freeing artistically, but also just like pressure wise, has been really great. So, just resetting that for myself has been helpful and tuned out again a lot of the noise. I think it's very easy to get distracted in business from, the true purpose of your business and where you want it to go. I'm a capitalist. I love money. I love making money. And that's a big goal, of course. Like if you're good at something, I think you should be paid for it accordingly. And I push really hard and I work really hard. But at the end of the day, for me, it's, I'm an artist and creator in that sense. And then, I find a way to then bring that to life, not the other way around. That works for me. Maybe other people have a different view of entrepreneurship, but, I try to give a lot, try to give as much as I can, because I learn through that process, talking to people, listening to people, offering value to people as much as I can, and then waiting and then doing my thing. But I think that evolution of entrepreneur and artist and the right balance there has been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I love that, of like just stopping focus. The word scalability, I feel like, has just turned into such a, just like such a buzzword. I don't know, but it has such a horrible connotation lately of just like focusing on the dollars first and the service second. And I love what you're saying, just reframing that. Yeah.
And it's much more personally fulfilling. It really is. I mean, the journal business has been crazy. Like the way that it exploded over 2 years was really eye-opening and taught me a lot. But I could tell you that I'm way more fulfilled going back into the business and focusing on the output and the writing and the creation than I was when I was, will this scale? Like, what's the ROI on this? Like, how can we cut costs around? Like, again, it's important. It's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I'd love to be a pure artist that makes a ton of money. You've got to balance it with the business aspects, of course. But I think where is it coming from has been a powerful reframing.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay. Last question before we get into rapid fire questions. And this isn't a rapid fire question because I feel like you might hate it.
Nice.
What is your mindfulness routine?
What is my mindfulness? Well, it's a lot of different things for me. I mean, I journal a lot, certainly. That's kind of my whole thing. But I would say it's music, honestly. Like, I live downtown Chicago on the river. I sit in my little chair there overlooking the river and I put on music. And like, I don't think I've ever done anything of merit, writing, speaking, outlining, creating without music. Like, music's a very important part of getting in my head in a mindful space. And for me, that's essential. Like, if I can't get in a space where I'm honest with myself, I'm useless. And if I can't get in a space where I'm empathetic with other people, I'm also useless. So my mindfulness routine is always centered around music, and it's always done the trick. And that's kind of what led me to like get involved in music and, that space. But for me, it's the right music specifically, dance music for me, house music, like 124, 128 beats per minute, just the repetition, the progression of it gets me in a headspace where I just feel that honesty. And that does the trick for me.
I love that. There's a lot of science around like repetitive music and what it does to put your brain into like a theta state, which I love. Yes. All right. Rapid fire questions.
Cool.
All right. Favorite way to work out?
An arm workout, lift things, pick things up and put them down. I don't know if that answers.
Strength weights. Love it.
Lifting weights.
Software that you can't run your business without.
Klaviyo.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. If you could live anywhere in the world that's not Chicago, where would it be?
Well, right now the plan is to move to Miami in December. So I would say that's accurate.
Miami. All right, cool. Full time?
Full time for a little bit and then come back.
Okay, cool. Yep. Advice you would give your younger self?
I would say the little soundbite I love to give, which is that there's no right way to live your life, but there is a wrong way. And the wrong way is to think that there's a right way. Basically, the idea that we're always putting ourselves into a corner thinking, oh, that person's successful, so I need to emulate them. Or that person is happy single, I need to emulate them. I wish my younger self would have set myself free a little bit sooner to discover what works for me. I make a living from sharing my feelings for a living. I never used to think that would be possible. So I think it's the idea that there is no right way. We could define that for ourselves, both personally, but also in the business sense. Like, there's so many different ways to create a business and make money in 2022. So I would definitely encourage my younger self to realize that.
I love that. One lesson that you took from the pandemic that you want to keep with you?
I don't know, maybe something more poetic, like there's like power in stillness. I don't know. I look back on those days, especially being in Chicago downtown, which basically emptied out for months and months and months. And just that stillness was really unsettling, but also like really powerful to like realize how small we are in the world sometimes. So I don't know. It's just so easy to get caught up in like rushing and the hustle, that I think coming back to that, I think in whatever way you can now, in a mindfulness routine or whatever it is, I think is equally as important today as it was then and always will be.
All right. And then this last one is listener submitted. Share an unpopular opinion.
Share an unpopular opinion. Oh, okay. All right. An unpopular. I only share popular opinions. Okay. Actually, no, I have a lot of probably unpopular opinions. I don't know, maybe not unpopular, but I do a lot of dating content. I know this isn't a dating focused show, but like, and I think it goes the same for business. Like we're very quick to say what we want in life. I want this. I want that. I want a partner who is this way and that way. And that's our first inclination. And again, it's good to have clarity in that sense. But in order to have those things, we have to bring something equally as valuable to the table. We have to offer something of equal value. I literally released an episode this morning talking about the way that we need to bring our milkshake to the yard if we want people to come to the yard. And the good news, though, is I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for the work we are doing. And I just encourage people to stop saying what you want, stop having a checklist for what you want in a partner, like know those things. But what you should lead with is what you're doing to deserve that. And in business, what is the work that you're putting in that says that your product should be on Good Morning America? Why should people buy your product? Like focus on what you're doing, the value that you offer. the reciprocity that you're bringing into a relationship. And I think the rest will take care of itself. I think just sometimes we have it backwards where we just blindly accept this thing that I'm a prize, or my business is this or that. It's like, it very may well be, but let's lead with the things that make it that way instead of blind statements like that. And again, that comes back to the why. If you could say the why.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's that's the thing. It's like, if you're a prize, why are you a prize? And that's sort of what you're saying.
I know that wasn't very unpopular. I'm a little too nice sometimes, but
I get it though. Cause everything you see is like, we'll make a list of what you want and do all of this, but it's flipping the switch is really important. But I think it gets a lot of people butthurt. I don't know. Like I can think of 3 friends that I know who would be like, but I am a prize. Like, I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Case, where can people find you? How can they listen to this podcast episode? All the stuff, buy your journals. Tell us where.
Case.Kenny on Instagram. Everything is there in my bio. The podcast is New Mindset Who Dis, newmindsetwhodis.com. You can get my journals, or they're on Amazon as well. That's pretty simple. I also host a radio music show called Zen Disco, if you want to listen to music and mindfulness as well.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, we will get all those links and put them in the show notes. Case, this was so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's our episode. I hope that you loved it. If you did, reviews go such a long way. I really, really appreciate them. And if you wanted to share it on your Instagram story and tag me, tag our guest, that would be amazing. Don't forget that I have a ton of small business marketing resources available for you. That's at foreverfriday.co/resources. So many freebies, workbooks, things for you guys to start building your businesses and continue growing them. That's it. I'll see you next week.